I promise you, if you do this exercise, it's going to change everything that you do in your business. It's like a time audit. You don't realize how much time you're losing until you do this exercise and it stands out. We are going to do a follow-up on the time and action video that we had. We were talking quite a bit about going into the detail on red and green activities. I'm going to go through a couple examples with detail and some that were without, just to give you that run through. If you need the template, you can always DM me at bestdressedcpa on Instagram, and I will shoot you over a template. Hopefully what we go through in detail today will give you those examples. We talked about getting a clock and setting up your time between good and bad activities. Maybe you had a third one if you have family time or something like that you want to do. And you're doing this for a set window of time, whether it's your 8 to 5 work day, or maybe you're doing this for a particular window that you have at home. All of those still function for what we're doing. So we're going to dive into red and green being good, red being bad. And this is the template that I used when I originally had done it. So the first example I'm going to show you here, we have a red and green column. You can see here's 5 days of the week. I start out on a Friday, ignore the days, but you can see that I had more red time in the beginning. And as I did the exercise, because I was conscious about hitting the clock for the good and the bad time, I actually reduced the red time. So I was running about 24 hours for green on a almost 40-hour week, 15 for red. This is the scenario that's very typical for people that are saying, man, I'm working my 40-hour week. I feel like I'm working, but it's not effective. I'm only getting 24 hours of what is good time or billable time. And this is kind of what holds you up from growing. Just in this particular scenario, I was in a 7 to 8 person firm, and we were looking at growing through a lot of this implementation. We went to about a 15 person firm. So these are a lot of the changes in that particular growth cycle, but you can use this for any size that you're working with. So before I go into the detail on the red and green, I wanted to show a list of red and green activities. So I will pull up what I had read on that. And here is our example for red and green activities. So the green ones, and I'm not going to go over all of them, but they're clearly here on the screen. You can look at them if you want. Working with staff to resolve an issue with a project. So this type of thing would be they're working on a tax return, they're stuck, they can't get it done. And this is where I would be taking my experience and teaching or training that team member and passing it along. I find that is a critical thing that the high value or higher up people in the office should be doing, whether it's me because I'm the only one there or whether I hire more at that high level. It is a high level task to be passing off that experience in some way. Second one on here that I have highlighted is meeting with initial clients. So you can imagine in a firm, people come in, they want to meet the guy. They got referred here for Trevor Hall or whoever else it is that they're trying to meet with. And if you bring them in and they meet with somebody else, they're like, well, why am I even here? Now, I will tell you, you can set up your business different with a different culture where they're coming there for the company and not the person. And it might change that. But in personal services and the way that I was set up at the time, they were coming in to see me. So that meeting had to be done with me. Again, many of these things that I'm putting on my green activities, depending on the space that you're at for your company and time, you might be trying to avoid doing so many initial client meetings and moving that off to somebody else. So you're just at a different phase. But these are the green activities for me at this time. If we look, we have preparing bank letters, and I put this at the same with preparing tax returns. So somebody will go to a bank and they'll need their CPA to write a letter. It's kind of like a guarantee, but you have to be careful how you do it. But basically, I was writing a letter saying we did their tax return and these were the numbers on their tax returns versus actual preparing a tax return, which has very high level technical items in here. Now, both of these were billable items. The bank letter sounds very simple, but there's a potential legal side that if they're written really loose or just here's some information the bank asked for on a letter, we could be opening ourselves up to liability that if somebody defaults on a loan, the bank's going to come back and sue us. So there is a real concern with these bank letters saying, hey, is this going to come back? Can I have a low-level team member do them? I will say in today's world of AI, there's a lot of tools that can automate the bank letters, which you can do, but you would still need to make sure that someone's proofing them. Whether, again, it's me or I have another team member. At this point, I was the one at the top also doing the reviewing, but you could ultimately offboard that to somebody else. But if you look at bank letters and you look at tax returns pay me a whole lot more than a bank letter would. So it would almost ask the question, why is bank letters on this priority list? Like it should have really been identified to move off sooner because tax returns are the high dollar thing that people are going to pay for and a bank letter is not. And does the client care that I'm looking at their bank letter versus their tax return. Where's the priority of work? I don't think they'll mind if my team member puts together a bank letter as long as it gives them the result they want at their bank. Versus the tax return, they would be upset to hear that their tax return got done and left my office without me even looking at it. So there are some key items there to look at. So going back into our list, coaching on my business, not a lot of items there. Coaching, planning, education, reading books on a regular thing. You'll hear me pitch that a lot, that I think that is huge. And this was where I picked it up from. Developing systems, checklist controls, tracking, reporting. You really can't successfully offload things as a small business to other people without some systems. Now, I will tell you, in the modern world, if you write everything out, no one's going to want to read it all. So yes, you have to have some method that is efficient and effective. It has to be usable. But I'm not going to go into that detail too much. We'll have lots of videos on this version of coaching. How do you work on your business? How do you do that better? I did want to focus on items that were previously read that I will now start billing. So we'll look at the first one, meeting with staff twice a day to hear issues with projects and help them move forward. Now, originally, when I was working with these team members, I came from a standpoint of, we only have so much of a budget to do this project. And if I'm billing and my team members are billing, the more we work on this project, the more the rate goes up, and this project is now over budget. And so I'm fighting with an internal project dilemma. I keep being over budget on these projects and having to write down my time. Now, that would tell you that I am either inefficient internally and I need to change my process, or I am really underbilling my projects and I need to quote higher for them, and I'm just not being honest with it internally. In this particular item, when I'm training the team members, I am helping them do the project quicker, and I'm helping more of the project be done at a lower billable rate, which ultimately does help keep the price point down for my clients. But if I'm not honest in the time that I'm billing on that project and my client is getting value from it, then I'm going to bill my projects too low. And this will cause part of the problem where you're working a whole bunch and the value is not coming in. You're like, where's the problem? This was one that I had, and a very good example that we can look at. If we go back to the second item, coaching staff on how to respond to clients' questions. So this is one of those spaces where you want to transfer your experience to your team members, and coaching and working with them is good. But in my head, I would say, we're billing the client twice. We're billing for my time. We're billing for my team members' time. So I can only bill for one. Well, that makes one of us work for free. Do we want to work for free? Does one of us want to work for free? My internal process requires us, from a control standpoint and training, for both of us to work on responding to these client questions. And this is the hourly rate and cost that it has. When I price honestly to the clients and I'm giving good value, they will pay for the service. This isn't a space where I'm the Walmart of the world and I'm competing for the lowest price ever. I wasn't. But I had these biases in my head of how, when I was working on a project or coaching and working with my team member, that I shouldn't bill my time. And so I had all these little spots where I was purposely not billing my time. And it wasn't until I looked at each day, red and green activities, item by item, where I started identifying these items where I'm honestly working on the client and I'm just not billing. So let's jump into some red activities. Maybe these will be a little more entertaining. Talking to potential lead sources, bookkeepers, giving them minimal free advice. This is one of the ways that I would bring in leads. And again, for your business, you're going to have, different things here. What is your method for bringing in leads? And is all of that time unbilled where I don't get paid? And you have to look at the time that you're spending there and saying, I'm spending this time doing marketing to bring in X leads, or I could spend that time working on my business and going out and paying for marketers to bring me leads. Which one is a better use of my time? Which one pencils right? A lot of people in small businesses, the hustle, they're just stuck in that hustle mind state, which I love. I'm not against it, where they're trying to do everything. They're also doing all these leads, and they think the only way that I can get ahead is growing my business. I have to make more money so I can hire the more team members I need that will alleviate and give me more hours in my day. But to get there, I have to bring in more work, and I have to bring it in myself. You don't actually have to bring it in yourself. So this was one of those things where I needed to be honest with what was that time cost. And if it was the best use of my time for leads, great. But if I'm not comparing it to other options, or at least trying other options, I'm insisting that there's only one way to work. And that's one of the tricks that gets you stuck in a box in small business, is you think that I have to do it all, or there's no other way, or it won't be successful if I won't do it. The challenge I would give you is, have you tried the other options? Have you tried them and looked? And a coach is really good for holding you accountable to those things and trying in a smaller window. Maybe it's a week or two, maybe it's a month, just to see what the results are. But also, if you're not tracking how your leads come in, you can't allocate them to the different costs that you had on them. So there is some tracking that would need to be set up. And again, when you're really busy, you're like, I don't have time for all of these things. You're going to set goals. You're going to pick one at a time. You're going to improve them one at a time and then move on to the next. And I hope when we're going through this activity that you're getting ideas for your own business or whatever your time management that you're working on. Like I said, it could be home projects, but you're coming up with ideas of, oh, I need to work on that. Write those things down. We're going to make a goals list out of it. Short term, long term. We're going to knock them out one at a time, not all at once. And as you start making these changes, you're going to see the change in how you utilize your time and how much more effective you are on green items. So going back in, making changes to an issued tax return. Again, just talking the technicality of this out from my perspective. If there's anything that has to be changed on a return, and I'm not saying it was particularly wrong. I have a client that gave me everything, and I asked him 3 times, is this everything? Yes. I get the tax return done. I show them what they owe, and they're like, oh man, I owe taxes. You know what? I did have this other vehicle I could write off. I was just too lazy to get the data together. But now that I owe, I would like to put this additional information on the tax return. Whatever it may be, there's a change to a tax return that has to be done. Typically, the way that we've projected our time or how we've planned it is, here's the set rate to do a tax return. And if they have a change, we're kind of eating that time. But one of the complications you have is if you have a system that's put a return all the way to the end, and now you're going to make a change, how do you guarantee it doesn't mess other things in the system? How does it not mess up the billing? Where does the time go? What if the person does the tax return and it's really fast? It's not me looking at it and they do it wrong. And now I have a change again. One of the biggest errors I can have from a service standpoint is if I have to make a change and I do it wrong, it really kills the service quality that the client is feeling. So in this particular thing, I was always doing it. But you can put in controls. You can put in a quality review person. This is something that can be taken off my plate. And so I put it in the red activities ultimately because I wasn't billing it. But there is a way to make this more productive. Or maybe I have to look at certain tax returns that end up having lots of change, or a particular client that constantly brings me things after the fact. And maybe I just have to charge them a higher rate so that when I have these issues after the fact, I'm still capturing a fair hourly rate for my time. So again, just using these as things to get your brain thinking about what are some of the other options we can look at. Fixing time input incorrectly so it will sync with QuickBooks. Again, this is just accounting systems, but if you could imagine, here I am the owner. Why am I looking at payroll data? You can outsource payroll. You could have an inside payroll clerk. You could have one of your office managers work with the payroll. The issue that I had was the way that it synced into my bookkeeping system was causing problems. If it's inefficient and it's taking a bunch of time, maybe this isn't the method I should be doing payroll. Maybe I outsource it like ADP or Paychex. I am a big fan of outsourcing payroll just because of the amount of time it seems to suck away from businesses that we don't want to give it credit for. But here's our example where I'm spending time on things that could easily be outsourced somewhere else. And they take my time. And I'm telling myself, it's so important because I can't get the time wrong. My team is going to feel like they're not valued or not getting paid right. And I don't want to lose my value with them. So I have to do it myself. That's the lie. We have to get around that. Last one on here, casual conversation with current clients over current events. This seems to be a thing once you're friends with somebody and you're a service provider that they'll want to talk about, oh, did you hear about the new current thing that had happened? And they'll want to use that as an intro to maybe get some free advice. Maybe they just want to build a relationship with you. And this is building that trust over current items besides just the tax return you see every year. This is a tricky area because if you like casual conversation or you want that type of friendship with your clients, this isn't billable time. It's very hard to bill. It's very hard to plan in advance how much of this you're going to have and roll it into the billing of a project. So you have to allocate, when we talk about calendaring, which will be coming up, you might allocate a certain amount of time to casual conversation or even to this item we had up above, talking to potential lead sources. We might say, I'm going to give myself 2 hours or 3 hours in a week, and that's it. I'm not going to talk anymore to those because it is a potential way of driving in leads. But I should also be measuring it. And if it isn't converting into real monetizable items, am I just wasting my time because I think this is fun? So we have to be honest with the results of what we're getting on time. Back to our regular sheet for red and green. So now that we've talked over a bunch of red and green items, we're coming back and looking. The first week, I really like doing just the clock on red and green and tapping it and not worrying so much about writing all the things down because what I want is this picture of how effective am I being with the time. We should see our red time going down because we're focusing on it. We see our green time going. It might be frustrating for me to even work with this clock and I really have to get the clock down. if you want to be successful in these hard things, I'm always saying break it into smaller steps. Don't try to do everything at once. The first week, I'm just going to get better at using this clock. On my second week, like I had mentioned in the earlier video, you're going to list red and green activities. You just saw my other sheet for that. Now we're going to write out the red activities as we do that during the day while we're still doing the clock. So on these items, again, we have some that I'll look at just to go over for example's sake. Brainstorming. Hopefully it helps you think about some for your own. The first one I have here that I highlighted is reviewing mail, IRS notices, bills, and making payments, and picking which ones to file. So billing is key for your business success. Going through the mail, IRS notices is pretty important. A lot of them have very short windows that you have to respond or something bad could happen. And so you don't want a mistake there. Don't let the fear of mistake make you insist that you have to do everything. That is the fallacy of small business that we have to train ourselves out of. We can train somebody else. We can put a method in place. And maybe one of our goals is I'm going to work for the next 2 weeks on a control method for how I'm going to have IRS notices checked by somebody else, scanned into the system, sent out to the clients, and a follow-up to make sure that we're communicating with them whether they want something done or not. Just because we got a notice doesn't mean there's something that they want me to do, but we should, in good faith, communicate with them. They should also get the notice at the same time, but still the follow-up is good free value. Do I, at the top, have to do that step? Probably not. Going down below, I have another one that says review and file form 5500. Not that that's anything to anybody else, but this is the retirement type form. It's pretty critical. You only have to do it once a year, and somebody at the top should be doing it. I have this again in red activities because I could have an admin or somebody else look at it and only bring me in if there's a problem. I should have some base expectations for what we're funding for the year, and as long as those are met, it should be good enough. So again, I'm saying it's sensitive, which is why I wouldn't have a general team member do it, but I could have an office manager or someone at a high level admin still help me with this task. So I don't really have to be doing that. Oh man, this one's fun. I'm going to sell myself out for your benefit. I hope it works out well for you. I have an item setting up a computer in the morning. So the process that it used to take me to set up a computer was 2 days. And it wasn't that I had to sit with the computer for a full 2 days. I would have to install a software, wait for it to install, run the updates, run that through, and then I would have to put another software on. And there was a particular order that the softwares had to go in the computer so that it didn't cause a problem with one of the other softwares that we've already installed. So this process of fighting the computer that I was constantly doing, I had team members try, it just made a mess. So I would literally take the computer in my office, and for 2 days, I would layer and put the software on and work through all the projects that we had until it was good to go. And I would say it was a stable computer when that was done. Anybody can look at this and say, as the owner of a business that's supposed to be billing to do tax returns and clearly setting up a computer you're not going to bill the client for, this is not where you should be spending your time. And ultimately, I did outsource this to a really good computer guy who's still my computer guy now and saved me lots of time. So you can identify these. Again, small business, you're going to try to do everything yourself. We have to step out of that box and say, which ones can we offload? We're not going to do them all at once. They might stay on the red list for a while, and I just have to be conscious about it. But we should have goals to take these items off the list so we have more green. Another one that's on here, cleaning the office. I'm very OCD. I want my office clean. I want it to present a certain way. And even if we have a cleaning crew that came through once a week, or if I tell the team in general, clean up after yourself and it's not happening, I don't want to be embarrassed when clients come in. And I think the first impression was really important. So if things weren't done right, I would just clean it. I would say that's a fail as well for me as a business person. I should not be at my level cleaning the office. Is it good on occasion to help out, maybe take the trash out or something to let the team know that there's nothing that's below you, and if you're asking them to do it, you'll do it too? I think there's some value in that, but it shouldn't be my regular, hey, I fix things because I'm frustrated. I should have a method that takes care of that anyways. And again, it's cleaning office for me. Hopefully you have something else, but I wanted to point them out just to learn. Let's learn together. Last one on here in my red list, consulting call with an accountant looking for a job. This is goodwill. I'm not personally going to hire him. So here, I like to do good things out in the world. I'm hoping to help people. I'm going to help this accountant guy and talk to them and give him all the advice that he wants. And I hope he finds, a good placement somewhere. And I've helped him do that. Those things work well. And you can put a balance of that in your time. But if you're one of those, I really want to be a good person, what you'll find is excuses to be trying to help everyone. You're going to be helping the client. Oh, that was for free. I tried to take that phone call. That was for free. I tried to help this accountant. That was for free. And you start this downward spiral of, I don't want to be the mean guy for telling these people no, but now I've told so many people yes, they have an expectation for it. You've created your own problem. You will have to start saying no at some point, and why, or maybe offering them to work with one of your other team members if you still want to provide it, or maybe even one of your admins, where you still provide it, but not at the top level. You have to organize your company better so that the best billable time is doing the technical and high-end and best billing projects. And these type of things that take your time are traps. So I went through them today, hopefully just to give you some examples. I'm going to jump back to the sheet one more time. Start with your red and green, just do the clock, tag your clock, put on an Excel sheet. On your second week, let's dial out all the red items as you work on them. And remember as well, you should start before you do any of this with writing out your green and red activities, just based on what you know before you even start. Just write out all the activities you can think of. But realistically, you should be writing additional items here on your red items as you go through it. I've mentioned this when we first started. The time exercise takes a little bit of time and it takes some learning. But I promise you, if you do this exercise, it's going to change everything that you do in your business. It's like a time audit. You don't realize how much time you're losing until you do this exercise and it stands out. I'm going to present a calendaring video next, which will show you how to dial in your day to windows, whether it's 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you want to do. But we'll need some of the information we're doing here for green and red activities and a real honest look at it before we can jump to a calendar. If I make a calendar full of things and they're just not happening, that's not going to be a successful goal. So please do the red and green activities. Let's run through these. And after we're done with this, I'll have a calendar video out soon. If you have questions or you want some of these resources, like I said before, you can DM me off of Best Dressed CPA, my Instagram, and I'll be happy to send it to you. And if you have any feedback or examples of your own that you're willing to share, please post them in the comments. I really am out in this space trying to help as many people improve, and anything that you can do to help them think that way is appreciated. Thank you.